Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream we work on some Django apps, and we're going to continue on the Django app that I've been building, the homeschool application, and we're going to focus our attention tonight on a bulk deletion activity. So stick around, learn how to do bulk deletes in Django, and you'll learn something new, hopefully. Before we get into that, I do want to thank the patrons that are supporting me on Patreon. If you would like to support me as well, you can go to patreon.com/mblehman. But I want to thank Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Patrick, Eric, Philip, Miguel, Peter, and Shivan for their support. It's greatly appreciated. Let's get into our task for the day, shall we? I was looking at what could we do that is new, because we just finished up something last week. And this was an issue that was reported to me by a customer, so I thought it would be useful. There's already a bulk create page in the app, and apparently one of my new customers reported that she used the bulk create feature and she loved it, but she made a mistake. And then the app had no ability to quickly delete a large group of tasks, which is what she was bulk creating. So she had to go delete them manually one by one, which is not great when you've got this ability to create stuff quickly. So there's an asymmetry there that I would like to correct with this feature. This is just the work that we're working on. The goal of this is to teach you about Django stuff along the way. So you're free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's what I'm here for. But we do it through the lens of this application. So please ask away. Keep your chat civil, please. But otherwise, I'm happy to try and answer questions as you might have them. Okay, so let's look at the place in the app where we need to add this feature. Let's think through the UI that should be added in order to make it work, and then talk through the kind of changes that we want to have in order to make this possible. Because bulk delete is not necessarily a common operation, I don't want to spend a world of time trying to make this. Like the last feature that I worked on took many streams to get through, and was quite a bit of work, and was a good feature, but I don't think we need nearly that level of detail on this. The quick and dirty will do what we want, hopefully. So we'll start up the application here, and we'll look at the app and check it out and see where the page that we want to extend and what that will look like, and then talk about how to actually make this change. So let's go into the app, and the page that we need to get to is one of the course pages. So we're going to look down and get to one of our courses here. And for the benefit of this, so let's check on, oh good, this one already has some tasks in it. And you can see, well, I don't know if you can see this or not, well anyway, is that this looks like it's already had the bulk create feature applied. So the bulk create feature that I have has the ability to put in some kind of label, and then it will auto number them if you want. And that comes along with this add new task feature. It's down here at the bottom. So we're not really going to go into that, but this is where we need to have this other ability. So the question is, like, where do we apply this? What is a good user interface to expose this, to make this accessible? There are a number of ways that we could do this. The overall process that I have in my head, if we go back to the task and put in some design notes, I guess, is I'm thinking of having some kind of button to a bulk delete page. And the reality is I'm trying to make this simple to implement and something quick to implement, because this is going to be a lesser used feature. So I don't think it needs to dominate, and I don't think it needs to get into this main page. So this is the main course page, and it's already doing double duty. It's not just a Django detail view, it is a Django detail view that has extra data. And the extra data for this course is the actual tasks that are associated with the course. The fanciest version that I could think of is probably like some other stuff that you could see on something like, I don't know, GitHub's issue list. I actually don't know. Let's see, does GitHub allow you to do bulk operations? So like something like this where you can make bulk changes and stuff. I don't think I want to go to that level for this application. I just don't think it's going to be necessary for what the users of my app are going to need, at least initially. Like maybe there's some farther future where I redesign the course page to really make it a lot more dynamic, but there's a certain amount of implementation cost and complexity that comes along with that offers, let's say, marginal utility, I guess. So I think what we could do, where could we put this? I have this kind of convention to put buttons at the top under here. I don't know that I want to have like this bulk task, like a bulk task button here or not. That seems like it could be kind of glaring and scary potentially. I might want something a little bit more subdued. So anyway, we need some kind of link or button that will take us to a page. And the page that we want to go to is the, we'll call it the bulk delete UI page. And I think with that page, I would like it to have probably like show all the tasks, kind of similar in layout to this, maybe even number them. We can drop a lot of the UI over here and just show the tasks as they are. And there's another page that we could maybe mimic a little bit. So this page kind of has some of this idea of maybe what is similar to the layout we could use. So have a set of checkboxes by them to allow the user to click for whatever they want to delete, and then some kind of delete button at the bottom that really gets their attention and says, okay, you're going to delete. So I think that's what I want that page to look like. I would like to have the little bit of JavaScript, like there's a tiny bit of JavaScript here that this is actually per student, which would be different on the course, I think. Ooh, there's some interesting complexity that we're already talking about that we can get into. But you can see that there's not many tasks on this, so there's not much to see, but you can at least see with this top one that it's checking multiple. And that wasn't a hard amount of JavaScript, but it was some JavaScript to add and implement that dynamically. The very, very first version of this page could ignore this top thing and just have a bunch of checkboxes, because it's extremely unlikely, unless they are just made a mistake right from the get-go, that a user will want to delete all of the tasks on their course. That is actually probably, there's some amount of risk there because the tasks are not recoverable once you've deleted them. So maybe we don't want to do that on the first pass. So the UI page will show checkboxes by each task. What else could it show? Because there can be other work associated with this. For instance, it's possible that the student has already completed the task, and by deleting the task, because of the way the data is modeled, it will also delete the student's associated work. So there's a model called coursework that's attached to a task, and there's a foreign key there that has a cascade deletion. So if we delete a task, it's also going to, as a consequence, delete the coursework and not leave some coursework hanging with no task associated. So we probably need to represent and show to the user, show existing linkage to coursework is another piece that's going to be on there. So that's probably one element. I'm trying to think if there are other pieces that are needed. I don't know. It's been a while since we've looked at our trusty models diagram, so maybe let's bring that up and see if I'm forgetting anything. And if you've never seen this app before, it's a little bit of exposure to what the models are here. So let's try and zoom in if I can and find the task. So here's the task. Yes, it can also have graded work associated with it, although that's not necessarily important to call out because that's just a check. From the user's point of view, this is just a checkbox, and a graded work will be added. Although I guess if, yeah, it does kind of trickle down, because if there are grades, if somebody's about to delete a task and there are grades associated with it too, that does seem a bit Yeah, maybe a bit extreme to not show that. I'm debating in my head how much needs to be shown. Because this could also guide somebody who may just be forgetting or have some just want extra context. So that could be there. We'll put it down. Maybe there's multiple passes on this that make it richer. So show existing grades potentially. So that's one element. Then we could also have so we talked about having the JavaScript button, but I think I said I want to throw that out, so let's not put that in the list of requirements here. I do definitely, though, want to have some kind of confirmation page or some kind of confirmation, whether that's a simple alert page, alert button, or a dedicated page, probably just a confirmation alert using the standard browser alert. It's not the most beautiful version of that, but it is effective. And it is also something that I use Htmx as my way to do dynamic stuff and submit requests through JavaScript. And using Htmx, there's a very trivial feature to add. In fact, I think the attribute is called alert, if I recall correctly, that can do a prompt that in the template you can say alert with the text you want to display, and it will only then do the actual HTTP request after the user has either confirmed or canceled it. Well, obviously, if they canceled it, it won't do anything. But if they've confirmed at the prompt, then it will take the action, which is probably what we want to use. So these three things feel like the right amount to me. So let's start with that. Before we even get to a view, let's mock in the UI that we want to have. So let's return to this page. Let's go ahead and start the server again so it's running in the background in case we actually click on anything, and decide where we want to put this. I think, I feel like it has to be here because these are the only areas that the users are kind of trained that there are actions. I mean, I suppose this little link to show more is an action in of itself, but it would be pretty strange to put a random button down here. I don't think it would make a lot of sense to have a text label here. It's not that much more in this UI. And yeah, okay. I can convince myself for now that that's okay. And if my users say, you know what, that doesn't look good, or they have come up with a better idea, I will happily change it. But for now, let's put a red button here that says something like delete many, or because bulk delete sounds kind of, I don't know. I just don't like the way that sounds. And these other ones are action oriented first. So add new task, add new resource. And if we say delete many, then, or delete multiple tasks, I don't know how long we want this to be, how much of that's going to look weird if it's too long, because then it will start to dominate the UI, especially if we're going to pick a color like red potentially. We'll have to play with the colors too, because we don't want to scare people into thinking that there's a big red button like right under, essentially it'd be right under the name of the class, and that's not where I want people's eyes to be drawn naturally. So yeah, we could probably do blue or something. Anyway, those are some initial thoughts. So let's look at the course page, and this should be in the templates area, course page, and this is going to be the course detail form, or the course detail template. We need to find the buttons, and here's the buttons. So it already has a guard for if these are only shown when there are course tasks, so that's a good start. So let's start off by duplicating this like this and see how it looks. So now we've got 2 of them. Did that white space change on this button? What happened there? I'm going to undo that and leave my mouse cursor there because I feel like the white space changed on the middle button in a weird way. It did. It got longer when I did that. That is strange. So that's something to look into. Okay. So we're gonna have this new button, and we'll change it to delete. Let's just use the most verbose thing right now until we can find a shorter, more concise name. Delete multiple tasks. Yeah, already that looks like, well, maybe it's okay. There we've got 2 for creation and a 3rd one for deletion. And actually, at least with this course, it kind of balances out the whole bar. It seems to be about the same length. Now, the grade name and the course can vary, so that's just coincidental here, but it does look decent. So let's try that for now. So the thing that we still have to do is link to the actual view. And that's our to-do here, because this URL is just going to go to the actual resource creation page right now, which is not what we want. So let's talk about what we need in that view. The view needs to be for a particular course, so it's actually going to be similar to this resource create view in that it's going to need the course's ID in order to get the right thing. And I think that's probably enough. So let's go look at the course URLs and see where we're going to put this. And I have another bulk somewhere. I have a bulk create. So let's see what kind of conventions that we used in case we can replicate that. So here's a bulk here. I have a bunch of bulk because there's some of these are using Htmx. But these are the URL names. And it looks like we have bulk after the actual resource. So maybe what we do is have something like, what would we like? How about this? We'll have path, tasks, bulk, and delete. Because the other one we have is a delete. Delete seems to be the trailing action after the course. This is going to have that. All right, it feels okay. Good enough anyway. And let's rename this to task. Well, let's be symmetrical here. There's probably a task delete somewhere. There it is, right there. So task delete bulk. And is this going to be a class-based view or is this going to be a function view? I think well, with this one right here, we can use the delete view, but I don't think we'll be able to get away with that for deleting many. And actually, let's confirm that. I'm not sure about this, so let's go to the class-based views site, which is a good resource. So if you've never used this, it's a way to look at Django's built-in class-based views in something that's a bit more friendly than the Django docs in this one. It's specifically designed because the class-based views kind of have this complicated structure. And I don't know if the delete view will allow us to delete multiple or not. I'm kind of getting the hint already that it won't, because it's talking about single object for deleting an object, which makes me think this is not going to be what we want. Okay. Let's do a quick web search. Django delete view many. Maybe this last one is going to be a winner. Yeah, you could do a query set and do delete on them all, but I don't think that's going to work with our actual delete view. How about this one? No. All right. Okay, none of those are feeling right to me. So let's use a function view. And we'll say bulk. We'll just use the same kind of naming here. Bulk delete course tasks. We'll have to create an associated form that will handle this. The form, because it's going to be handling many IDs, might take some finagling. Yeah, we'll just have to play with like what's the right kind of form field to use. Because there is going to be some custom logic here to make that checkbox stuff work dynamically. So it's not as easy as just letting, in some of these views, you can, and some of these forms, the model form field might expect something like to have a primary key as the value that you get to submit with the form. But I don't know that we can do that the way we want to here if we're also going to be toggling with some JavaScript. Maybe we do that with IDs and can get around that. I don't know. We'll have to look. So it's either going to have to be a pretty custom form, or we'll just have to research on what form field might let us use many. You can see my editor is already complaining like this view doesn't exist yet. So we need to go create that. And let's move on to the next bit. We're done with the template for now. Let's go to the course views area. Let's find where the bulk create is, because it's near where we want to be. And well, is it? Probably want to put it more with the delete stuff. So as a starting point, because it's a form. Is it the right form though? The bulk create is using the form set factory to create multiple forms for a single go. So it actually might not be the right template of a form view that we want. There might be a simpler one that we need to use. What do we have here? Okay, I don't know why I know what I'm doing here. So let's just go with I know how to do this. I just was being lazy. Sorry, y'all. So we want to create the bulk delete course tasks view. It's going to take a request object and bulk delete course tasks. That's a really boring documentation string for now. I'm going to go ahead and put the login required on here. We are going to test this to prove that login required is there. This is an action that I only want to happen for logged in users. And the other thing we need is a primary key is going to be passed. And you can see we're using this hash ID parameter, which is based on the primary key. So the bulk delete that we're going to get, we'll get the primary key as the part that's been parsed out of the URL. The first thing that we're going to need to do is look up the course based on if the user has access. So get course only if user has access. I think there's likely a helper method in this file that will help us do that and do the right access control. This will also be another thing that I want to test, because it's very important, because the way that I've designed the database is this is not, so tenancy is the idea, and tenancy is the notion, at least in this application design space, that your customer's data should be separated somehow. There are many ways to do multi-tenancy, which is what we're talking about. And one way is to do it at the actual database level. So the Postgres database has the ability to have essentially separate databases. And so some people take a path, and I believe you can even find Django packages that support this, to have to split up databases based on a particular user. So you can really segment that all of this user's data is in this single database. A trade-off with that approach is that migrations then have to be applied to each customer's database, and there's some complexity there. With my application, I have not opted for that model. It's a single database, but that means that the enforcement then on keeping customers' data separated is up to me. And I do that through some foreign key management. You can actually see it in this in the model diagram here. All of the customers are using this user record. That's how they authenticate. And every user has a school. And essentially the top half of this diagram are most of the models that are in use by the application and part of the domain, like grades, school years, courses, graded work, resources, all that kind of stuff. It all exists mostly up here. And it's all connected through this school. So everything is filtered through this one lens of, is the user that's making the request able to access all of these attributes through this school? So if you could kind of view it like a tree, where the user's at the top of the tree and everything kind of cascades down. So when I have access methods to support this, it essentially is doing the lookup and saying, like, I can find a course with this ID, but then is the user the foreign key that's attached to the school that is associated with this course? Hopefully that made sense. So then we're going to have some form handling logic here. So we need to render the GET request, and then we need to have some post handling on the form. And on success, we should redirect back to the course page. That's where this should end up. Let me see, did I implement? I don't know that I did. Maybe there's a new package that we can bring in. I think I used it on a different project. So let's look at our requirements for a minute. Htmx, nope, okay. So as I noted earlier, I would like to use the alert from Htmx to make this possible. And Htmx is a piece of JavaScript code that will issue AJAX requests. So it won't be the browser that's doing the submission when there is a post. So it is possible to use a package called Django Htmx that's written by Adam Johnson, who is a very prolific Django contributor, to detect HTMX requests with this Htmx package. You add a middleware to your middleware stack, and it looks for certain HTTP headers that Django Htmx adds, or not Django Htmx, sorry, that the Htmx project adds when it makes a request, and Django Htmx detects those headers and adds certain attributes to the request. So it ends up looking like you can do something like request.htmx, and it's a Boolean, I believe, and then you can detect on that. Now, it may be that we don't actually need to do that, because with the HTMX request, we might do just a post, or maybe we're going to do a delete call. I don't know. Let's debate that. So the semantic version of this, since it's the web here, is to do a delete. So we could probably do that instead of a post. Post is like the generic, you want to modify data, but in this case, we're actually doing a bulk operation that is deleting stuff, so delete might actually be the right HTTP verb to respond to. And if you're not well versed on HTTP or anything, and you have questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. I'm happy to try and address them. I realize I'm making some assumptions about knowledge here, and that may be inaccurate. Okay, so we've got our view. Let's save this because it's now going to, there is a real view here, although it's not returning anything yet. We need to render our page, and that may be it. This page is not going to have any complex validation logic, because it should just be a list of tasks with some checkboxes. So you either wanted to delete something or you didn't. There's no input of other data, so there's nothing to tell users of you need to resubmit because we didn't get it right. That's not necessary. So that's actually going to simplify this strategy here. Is like we're either rendering a get, and then we're handling the delete, which may be the form. Both of them are going to need to use some kind of form. So we need to create a form, and that will do the actual handling. And I feel like, so the redirect's going to go up with the form. All right, I think that's a good set of to-dos. I don't think we need to do anything else with the actual route here. So we just need to remember task delete bulk. In fact, I'm going to drop it in the chat so I don't have to remember. Task delete bulk is the URL route. URL route. It's hard to say for some reason. And now that we have that information, now I think we're prepared to go to the test file and start writing some tests for this, to do this in a test-driven style to make sure that we get it all done right. And then we can finally get the template and all that other stuff. So let's find the course task. Let's search for delete view, and then put the test case. I like to make my test cases kind of line up with where my views are. There's no real rhyme or reason for that. It's probably the easiest way that I can think, a sane rule to apply. So we'll do the test bulk delete course tasks, and that will derive from test case. All right. Now, first test that we need is this one right here. We're going to take a course factory, and this is in the courses app, but we're going to replace this with the task delete bulk URL route. And even though we don't have a return yet, this should pass. Okay, good. That took longer to run than I would anticipate. I was like, why did it take almost a second and a half? Not cool. I guess my app's starting to get to that point where it has enough data in it, or there's enough size that there's more to look up. So there's a bit of overhead. Still reasonably fast though. I also have been working on a Lua side project, and Lua is just insanely fast. So I'm working on a test suite over there, and it runs even though I only have 10 tests right now, it does all of those tests in less than 1/10 of a second. So it feels, well, it feels instantaneous. So coming back to 1.5 seconds feels like an eternity, as weird as that sounds. All right, so we've got that test. We need to, let's go ahead and like put in the, what other tests are we going to need? So let's say test only user courses, or course only, I have another one with a similar name, only users course. Okay. And the user can only access, can only modify their own course page, their own course tasks. That's what we want that test to do. We need a test page for that it worked out okay. The view renders okay. We also want to test the delete. The selected tasks are deleted. And this test might actually cover a bunch of things, because there's definitely more than one thing that we want to have happen. We want to have an assert generating to-dos all over the place here. We want to have an assert that the tasks are deleted. We probably also want to assert that the other tasks are not deleted. So assert preserves non-selected tasks. We want to assert that we get redirected to the course page. And I think we're going to want to put some kind of message, some kind of, I mean, there'll be some element of this being obvious to the user, because they'll go to the course page, and if they had just created a bunch of stuff that they made by accident or whatever, and they just wanted that out of there, it should be pretty evident through a bit of scrolling. At the same time, though, we can also offer a bit of active feedback that says something like deleted 10 tasks. So assert the deleted X tasks message. And we can put that up as a flash message that will show on the course page just for that one time when they revisit. So these are the things that we probably want in the delete call. And there's an argument to be said that you could split that up into different tests, but sometimes having a handful of asserts that's on one action and you're just sort of testing the entirety of the action makes for a pretty readable test case. It also will probably make the suite a slight bit faster, because the setup cost of having multiple tests is going to be a little bit higher than having one. I don't really typically optimize for speed at the number of test levels, but it is a little benefit here. And in case we don't all get all this done this evening, let's actually start annotating our to-dos with the actual issue number, which I did on the last one, and it turned out to be helpful. Because previously I would come back and I would forget what I was working on, or where I was working, and having these annotations of including the number is useful. I would hope that we get through most of this tonight, but there's a chance we may not. Okay, so now we're associating these to-dos with the 446 issue. All right, next step. We want to do this access control check. So we need to get the course, but we need to do it properly. So let's look and see if there is an existing get course kind of function, get course task query set. Is that what we want? That's for tasks. There is a get course function. And this is partly why it's needed. It doesn't seem totally evident at first, but the way to get the course is actually through the grade level. So if we go to the diagram, model diagram, and look at this. So the course is up here. Actually, no, it's not. The course is over here. Here it is. And it's really and truly connected to things via a many-to-many table, because courses can apply to multiple students. So they can be in multiple different grade levels because each student can be in a separate grade level. So this is all to say that the actual lookup of a specific course and finding and walking this path, getting from course all the way back to the user, requires walking a set of relationships from the course through the many-to-many field, through the grade level, through the school year, through the school, to the user. So that's quite a set of things to walk, which is why there's this get course function here that does exactly that. It's going through the grade level, it's finding the appropriate user, and it's finding a specific object if that user is in there. And also, because it's a many table, and the way that some of the underlying SQL works with some of the joins, we have to call a distinct on it for reasons that I don't really need to describe. The point is, we can use this get course function in order to get the course for the actual user. So we want to write the test first to prove that it works. What we're really looking for is a 404 on this. There was another example, I thought, of test only. Well, that's not really what I was looking for. This will be a good starting point. Well, I thought we could find one that would be exactly what we wanted, but it doesn't look like the case. We do want to have a user be logged in with our test. And we want to do a request and get the response. So the response is equal to self.client, I think. Nope. Man, it's been too long since I did this. Oh yeah, you can call the method directly. That's what it was. Call a get method, and you pass in the route. And we want to say course of task. Nope, that's not what we called it. Yeah, it is task bulk delete bulk. And it needs to take the PK course ID. All right, so we've got that. We need to use this particular course. So we'll assign that to a local variable. And then we want to assert that the response is a 404. So we can use this helper function, go down to response 404, and pass it the response. Okay, there is the test. Now, the reason why this test is accurate is because this course factory, we didn't provide it any parameters. If we had done this properly to connect this, we would say that the user would go into this constructor in a way that we can pull in a minute when we're going to need to do that when we get to this OK. But because these are two totally separate, nothing is passing to the other, the course factory will generate a different user to prove this test. Now, this test should fail because we've not implemented the body of this. We've not called get course, but we also haven't returned any kind of response. Oh, that's actually really surprising. So I think what's happening here That's curious. Okay, so what is the response body? I didn't anticipate that. That's not good when your test actually passes when you don't want it to. It means that something is not quite going right. So maybe let's put in enough of the implementation in the view to make it fail. Let's go to the bulk delete. It's probably missing the response that's causing this to go, because that should have returned a 200 instead of a 404, because there's no body. But the fact that it was returning none might cause Django to go some other path and says, like, I don't know what this is. I got a none response. I'm going to treat it like a 404. I don't know if that's truly the case, but let's put in a little something to get it started here. And we're not going to keep this, so I'm just going to import it locally for the moment, because we're going to call render in a minute. All right, so now let's retry the test. So there's something that gets returned. Why is it 404ing? That's not good. Did I name this? Yes, I did. There it is. It's courses. So I wrote the test wrong. There we go. Okay, that's what I expected to see. So now we have a response coming back, but that's not what it should be doing. Instead, what we should be able to do is in here, we're going to say the course is what? Get course. And we're going to pass in the request user and the primary key. Now we should get the 404 that we expect.